Montreal is sort of ground zero for my entrepreneurial career.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and for leaving work a bit early on this Thursday. I'm really excited to be here. I won't spend too much time on my personal story, but some of you might know I'm a partner at Brightspark Ventures, but also the co-founder of Montreal Ventures, which is Canada's leading pre-seed fund investing in student founders across the country. And 10 years ago, we were dreaming of Montreal Ventures and maybe putting in a room a mix of the leading venture capitalists in Montreal, entrepreneurs, students. It was very hard to gather more than 30 people in one room. And today there's 300 people coming. It's amazing to see. And at HSA, and 10 years ago, I would have said impossible to see McGill and HSA collaborate on an event for startups. So great job on whoever pulled that off. But enough about that. So today I'm really thrilled to be sitting here with amazing student entrepreneurs, the next generation. Every time I speak with student entrepreneurs, I'm just like, what were we doing back then? But I think it's very impressive to see what the folks are working on. Maybe we do a quick round of intro, just your name, maybe a bit of your background, what you studied, and the company you're working on today.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Woo Park. I'm a McGill Desautels business graduate. I studied finance and strategic management. And currently, I'm working at the operations at NationGraph, which is a platform we are building to help all sorts of businesses sell into all SLED entities of the U.S. sector, the state and local, providing them with intelligence on how to win contracts, how to win RFPs, and get into the procurement cycles of all that U.S. trillions of spend.
Awesome. Tui?
Hi everyone, I'm Tui. I'm a fourth-year honors cognitive science student at McGill University, currently doing research at MILA, the Quebec AI Institute, and the Montreal Neurological Institute. Alongside my studies, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unbiased RX. We provide data-driven insights and personalized risk assessments to improve drug safety and address critical gaps in healthcare, namely the underrepresentation of women and ethnic groups. And so we provide these data-driven insights to really ensure equitable research practices and improve drug safety. And because we believe that every patient deserves confidence in their treatment care that is safer, more effective, and more inclusive. And we're still very much early stage, so I'm really grateful to be here, part of this panel, to learn from these amazing people and the inspiring entrepreneurs and visionaries in this room.
Allô, bonjour à tous. Moi, c'est Rosine Lolory. Je suis docteur en intelligence artificielle appliquée au domaine de la santé et je suis la fondatrice de Brain. Fait que nous, on développe un système basé sur l'IA pour dépister précocement le cancer du poumon parce que c'est une maladie. Quand les gens l'ont, là, les chances de suivi sont très faibles et c'est de 4%. Et la solution qu'on développe pourrait augmenter les chances de suivi de 4 à 63% sur 5 ans. Merci.
Hey everyone, my name is Anthony Azrock. I graduated from McGill in software engineering. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Open Sesame. We help businesses create, integrate, and manage their AI agents in seconds instead of the days and weeks that it's currently taking.
Thanks, Anthony. And during our first call, you mentioned you just raised your first external check. What can you tell us about that? You know, the first experience of raising money as a student founder.
Yeah, so the whole company started in late May of 2024. And my co-founder and I essentially put ourselves a goal like, look, we have 3-4 months here before summer's over. We need to raise capital or we really just have to get a job. So yeah, because our parents just would not have accepted doing nothing, like not getting any income in, like it just wouldn't work. Immigrant parents, great. And so from day one, we really want to create this environment where we were talking to VCs from, right? When you think of investors, you often think of a transactional thing. The way that we saw was really like, hey, these are going to be our partners from now until we exit. So we better really know who they are and see if they really have our best interest at heart. And so from day one, we really started to talk to a bunch of analysts, a bunch of VCs in Canada. And when it was really time for us to launch a product, we got a few customers. It sort of all fell into place where a couple of VCs were interested and we picked the ones that we thought were best fit for us.
That's great. That's a good position to be in. But enough about VCs. many folks, when you're looking from the outside, think that, there's a traditional path to entrepreneurship or it's a decision you make to become an entrepreneur. But I think a lot of people in this room know that's usually not the case. Wu and Tui, in our first interaction, you mentioned, I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. Maybe starting with Tui, can you talk to us a bit, how you ended up starting your company and what really led you to change your mind on that and jump in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I really never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I mean, I don't think anyone dreams of working overtime, having to give up on job security, having to, constantly live under stress and taking so many risks under uncertain conditions. But for me, it just had to happen because I found this mission that was truly important to me. And it started off with this mission from the AI for Good Lab. That's where my co-founders and I met. And we developed this project to tackle a systemic issue in the healthcare system that we had read in this book called Invisible Bias. And also this famous case in 2013 when this wildly prescribed medication, Ambien, was found to metabolize more slowly in women. And that unfortunately led to the next day they would still have the effects in their system, and that would lead to impaired driving, and that led to a lot of deadly car accidents. So unfortunately, this is just one example of the many disparities in pharmaceuticals that lead to a lot of severe risks and consequences and lives lost, as well as billions of dollars that are costing the healthcare system. And these can all be prevented with a solution like ours. And it's not anyone's fault. It's something that's always going to happen, and it's difficult to find patients to participate in these safety trials. So that's why we developed this tool that would empower patients and providers to improve prescribing workflows. And it just made so much sense. We ended up winning the Accelerator Award for the AI for Good Lab, and that led to a lot of new opportunities. We joined the Mila Entrepreneurship Lab. We got into the RBC Borealis Let's Solve It program, the McGill Engines Tech Axel, and are now joining the McGill Dobson Bootcamp and Cup very soon this semester. And we have other pending applications, which I cannot disclose at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely looking like a lot of new opportunities are coming up, and just talking to actual users and and medical practitioners and also representatives at the UN, also getting a lot of interest from VCs that really reaffirm our mission and our desire to truly make a positive impact in this field. And so this has been an important leap for me, but it also made a lot of sense because something that's never changed and a true dream of mine is to make a positive impact in the world. And I think this could be a great way to make that vision come to life.
Thanks for sharing your story. I think, as you mentioned earlier on, it's like probably one of the toughest jobs in the world. So you better have the mission to fuel that desire to really solve a critical problem for an audience you care about. Wu, you also said something along the line that, you founded McGill Ventures, worked in venture a little bit, were probably set on the industry, and initially said, I'll not join a startup. And here you are. You joined Nation Graph pretty early on. So can you tell us a bit what was your decision process like as a student graduating to decide, okay, I'm going to up in a startup, which is a bit scary, uncertain path versus working in investment banking or becoming an accountant, as Theo mentioned?
Now hearing it on mic, it actually sounds really ironic that I was a co-founder in McGill Ventures as a first year, even though I have typically never wanted to be a part of the entrepreneurial society, really. Actually, the reason that I was most scared of the whole entrepreneurship or startup aspect was the fact that I came in pretty educated. Coming in from high school, I was really interested in the startup space, venture capital investing space, and for that matter, from there, I found out that, 99% of companies fail for that matter. So if anything, that was one of the biggest deterrents of initially joining a startup. But as I came to really learn more about even what startups actually do, but also what career paths there are out there for us, the decision came a lot clearer. So if I were to take you a little story down my education path, I was technically educated to be a typical consultant or investment banker, through those clubs and whatnot, but I had the opportunity to work at a early stage venture fund in my third year, which opened my eyes to the actual really operating parts of a venture capital side and the startup side, really seeing what actually being in the career field of this is like. At that point, when I was on the investor side as an intern, it was so amazing to see all these founders come in to me with all their passionate hard work, their project at hand, and showing so much passion to change the world and make tangible impact. It was incredible. It was so heartbreaking to see, though, that like unfortunately a lot of these founders will go on to go through hardship and whatnot. But that inspired me to actually do something with my life, if that means something. Like after seeing that internship experience of seeing startup founders work so hard every day and our venture capital investors trying to support those innovations, inspired me to like actually break away from that cycle of just going into join a big four, just going to join the MBB. The completely eye-opening experience where I was able to just like come up with the idea in my head that you're right, this regular corporate job isn't for me. It's time to seek something else. And even when it comes to joining a venture, there was a lot of great things for me personally. First, the team that I was able to have the opportunity to join, it's incredible the people that you are surrounded with daily, 8, 10, 12 hours of your lives, possibly as a startup employee. You're going to learn so much. You're an absolute sponge around all of your other co-founders, all of the people you're pouring your heart, blood, and sweat and tears into, as well as I really believed in the product and innovation at hand. Obviously, with NationGraph, we have the ability to possibly make every single dollar spent by the government be the most optimal and efficient as possible. I mean, if we can succeed on that mission, that is a great impact for the world. And just really, in a selfish way, wanting to go back to the early stage investing space, we've always heard that being a part of a startup and like building really gives you great insights onto how to become a better investor. So there was a suite and a plethora of reasons for me to personally join.
Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned team, which is, I think, the number one success factor of any company at the early stage, late stage public companies. It just matters so much. But obviously, like as Tui mentioned, the mission and the idea behind matters a lot. And I was reflecting on student founders and a lot of our experience with Frontier Ventures that some of the most interesting companies we see are people who emerge from research and academia and kind of build the bridge towards building a company out of their research. And I think that's pretty much the case for you, Rosalind and Tui. So can you please tell us a bit, what your experience has been like, and if there's any myth you can debunk about people saying that you cannot be a good researcher and a good entrepreneur, that the two worlds are not compatible.
Oh, je suis la preuve vivante, hein, que c'est possible de pouvoir comme faire les deux, là. Parce que moi, j'ai comme un background qui est purement comme académique, maîtrise mathématiques, informatique, doctorat en intelligence artificielle. Donc, la recherche, c'est comme, j'ai trop fait ça, là. Mais le côté aussi entrepreneuriat, il y a comme plein de choses qu'on a en commun, c'est de trouver des solutions à des problèmes. Côté recherche, il y a toute la rigueur qu'il faut suivre. Côté entrepreneuriat, il n'y a pas forcément la rigueur, là, ça dépend
Ça dépend de l'entrepreneur.
De l'entrepreneur, de la solution. Mais dans le domaine, par exemple, médical, parce que moi, je suis dans le domaine médical, là, c'est important, vraiment, la rigueur scientifique. Donc, c'est quelque chose qui m'aide beaucoup. Donc, à pouvoir travailler sur notre solution on fait aussi beaucoup de recherche, là. Donc, c'est arrimer les deux, je trouve que c'est vraiment impactant. Et aussi, autre chose que je veux rajouter, c'est que le côté recherche, on va comme vouloir faire des publications qui peuvent ne jamais être utilisées, là. Alors que le côté, un entrepreneur peut développer des solutions, mais prendre des solutions que le chercheur a développées et puis le rendre accessible à tout le monde. Fait que j'aime bien ces deux côtés-là. Fait que c'est possible de pouvoir aimer les deux. Donc, je vous invite fort, là, à faire les deux, là.
Certainement. Puis je pense que dans l'ère où on est, la plupart des grosses compagnies qui vont émerger comme des nouveaux tech leaders vont avoir une partie de science derrière, parce que les plus gros problèmes que notre société, auxquels notre société fait face en ce moment sont des trucs qui peuvent pas être réglés par du pure software. Donc, je pense qu'on va voir de plus en plus d'entrepreneurs qui émergent de la recherche également. And Tui, you also have somewhat of a similar story of coming out of academia, and you tell a bit, your path and what kind of special powers do you think you get from having, I guess, one feet in each world?
So for me, I think it's always been presented as industry versus academia, and then startups have been seen as sort of this like third mystical option that no one talks about. But I think there are a lot of fundamental similarities, even though the incentive structures are different. The core aspect of it is problem solving and advancing the field and touching into the unknown. And I had a mentor at Google DeepMind who told me that academia is like repeatedly digging into the unknown. And I feel like that's exactly what we're doing with our startups. We have no idea where this is going to lead or what is going to happen, but we're using our critical thinking and problem solving skills and rigorous iterative process to go through this challenge and developing a product or solution that really has potential to drive impact in the world, to act as a catalyst for change, a vehicle to really make a change and a positive impact in the world. And that's really why I initially came into academia. And I see that startups provide way more support in terms of funding and also can really catalyze these sort of breakthroughs into real world actions.
Thank you. I love what you just said about always being in the unknown. I think a challenge of founding a company or anything at all is a bit that. And some of the challenge we see with, I guess, first-time founders especially, and anyone who's very technical or comes from science, is the ability to pivot from a mindset of being completely tech product obsessed to being customer and market obsessed, and really pivoting from building something you think is great and to finding product market fit. A lot of people really struggle with that path. And usually that comes with a lot of pivots and mind change and scratching everything you worked on and starting again. And I think some of you have really good stories around that. I see Anthony smirking there, so maybe you start with a juicy story around pivot and changing your mind as you're going through the process of finding product market fit.
Yeah, well, so Open Sesame used to be an AI hallucination detection company. So for those of you who don't know, essentially an AI hallucination is when you're chatting with ChatGPT and it gives you like a weird answer or like something completely wrong. So we were trying to help businesses detect those to reduce the error. We got pretty unlucky in a way where not only did we underestimate how quickly these AI models were actually going to get better and better. So as they get better, naturally the rate of hallucinations go down. But at the same time, you have a bunch of these other companies in the field that just raised $35, $40 million Series B. And combine those two together, and essentially there's no space for a pre-seed startup to even like survive. So when we realized that, we went directly to our customer and we asked them like, okay, well, you're liking our product right now, but what can we do better? How can we serve you guys even? And they came back to us and they were like, okay, well, this is really cool, but we're having just a hard time building these, AI systems, infrastructure, all that stuff. So if you guys can help us with that, we'd be really happy. So we went back to the drawing board and we came back with something that resembles like Zapier, but for AI. So we'd have like these nodes that you connect together to create a whole flow. And you can export that in an endpoint and you can put that in your product, and like magic, it works. But again, we go back to our customers and we ask them, okay, well, what can we do better? And a lot of them came back to us and they were like, look, this is really cool, but what if we could put this in our own product? And that's where it sort of clicked for us. Like, okay, wait, we could just bypass this whole node connection thing and then just allow the user to interact with the whole product using natural language and have all these mystical interactions between the product and other parts of your workflows, and so many possibilities just came to life. And so far, we started selling the new version of our platform in the sort of January, and we've had pretty good success so far. So we're pretty happy with the pivot. So I'm guessing a lot of you guys in the audience are from a technical background, so CS, software, even research. For the love of God, please talk to your customer. Because we have the tendency to overbuild stuff, and we think it's like, oh yeah, they're going to love this feature. Most of the time, they actually don't care about the feature at all. So please just talk to your customers, and that'll avoid wasting a lot of time and a lot of money.
I can't agree more. Woo?
Yeah, I'd love to build on that because at NationGraph, I guess we were actually in stealth just up until this January. We'd been operating in stealth for the past 6 or so months, roughly. And we were obviously relentlessly talk to customers, our consumers, our clients, our key building partners to try and build the product that they wanted, which we did. And it actually came to life on January 1st. It was ready for launch. And then when we came to what these customers asked for, they said, oh, it's great. but can you do more with it? So even though we had actually built everything that the customers wanted, it was still, like a 6 out of 10 product. But come on, we're in this space. We're looking for 100 out of 10, right? So not only, I was just going to say, yes, you can ask your customers at the start all throughout, but you got to keep them engaged throughout the entire process while you're building afterwards, because this pivot, so we brought this product January 1st at the start of the year, and we came to them and they said, okay, it's good, but maybe it's not the most stickiest. It's not completely embedded within their workflows. It's just not what we need it to be exactly, right? So shout out to our engineering team, but right on like January 1st, right when we got back to the office, we basically scheduled out the changes that we needed to make our product 100 times better than it already is in a way, right? When we were setting out timelines, because we are still a startup company, we have a small team, our engineering team could be probably totaled out to a number of like 2, basically. We were trying to think, okay, what's the timeline? Okay, like maybe like a workday kind of company could do this in 40 days. Maybe like any average company can do it in like 30. We're going to try to push to do it in 20. So we were able to just like work, because we have these like small agile teams who are really devoted to the product. We just started talking to customers for those first 5 days. We were back right there with our key building partners. We revamped it, and we're actually currently just finishing up, and then we'll be once again kind of relaunching with our really expedited V2 and hopefully selling a lot to the customers.
Awesome. You mentioned agility and working on January 1st. I think, we're always balancing starting a company when you're early in your career versus when you're, let's say, repeat founders in this third time. There's clearly a lot you learn along the journey. I'm sure that all of you, if I start this again, I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to skip all those mistakes and so on. So there's a ton of argument why you become a better founder through time, but there's definitely some special talent or special weapons you have as starting something when you're early in your career as a first-time founder. You mentioned agility and probably the ability to work hard. Are there any other things you feel like you have an edge right now starting a company at this time in your life?
If I were to just quickly say, I think there's a little bit of, just because of maybe how young we are, there's a little bit of recklessness in the fact that we're just willing to do things. We're just willing to try things. We're trying to execute on it, because in that case, we will learn faster. If we crash instantly, we'll learn from that. Like you said, we'll learn from that experience. And just the fact that because we are so early in this stage, I think we're able to just try more things, try it fast, and reiterate on things.
You have literally nothing to lose. Like, zero. Today, zero. There are so many AI tools out there that will let you prototype an idea that you have in 10, 20 minutes. And then you can hop on like sales calls and then show this like dummy prototype that you just built and ask them, hey, would you pay for this? If yes, great. You just made $100. Great. You have zero to lose, nothing to lose. Even if your business fails, the skills that you've like gained through the whole journey will serve you in your more corporate life, right? So, don't say, oh, I'll start this tomorrow. Like when you get back home today, I want you guys to look at your notes app where you have all your ideas and just try one. You have nothing to lose.
Well, I agree with that take, but I also think it takes a small, healthy amount of delusion to go into this. And you have to be a little bit of a risk taker for sure. But I do think as a student, so I'm personally I like to carefully take the time to evaluate my options before making a decision. So the reason why I'm going to this as someone who has so carefully crafted my journey up until now, I think we are very well supported as students here. There are a lot of programs that are targeted towards students, early stage ventures. So I do feel very much supported throughout the programs that I've been part of. So I think it's a great way, as Anthony said, to learn new skills, to learn throughout this whole journey. And I think it's been great. And I also really love my co-founders. They're in the crowd right now. So, enjoy the journey as much as possible. Find other people who push you to, break boundaries, to go beyond what you think is possible. Because, you need a little bit of delusion to be successful in this.
Je suis entièrement d'accord avec eux. C'est vraiment le bon moment là pour vous lancer. Et vraiment, vous n'avez rien à perdre. Et aussi, il y a plein de programmes, de compétitions que vous pouvez faire là. Genre comme le coopératon ou d'autres compétitions là. C'est vraiment riche et il y a plein de choses à attirer là. Il y a des des formations qui se donnent, des ateliers, donc vous gagnez aussi plein de choses et vous vous lancez. Donc, allez-y, foncez et vous allez y arriver.
Mesdames, je voulais aussi vous demander, j'étais super contente quand j'ai vu le make-up du panel de voir 2 femmes en IA parce que c'est encore un gros pied. Merci. Il manque énormément de représentation, de diversité à tous les niveaux dans l'industrie de l'intelligence artificielle. Puis je pense que tout le monde est au courant que malheureusement, ben, les biais risquent d'être reportés dans le IA s'il n'y a pas différentes personnes qui travaillent là-dessus. Comment vous pensez peut-être qu'être dans un groupe justement qui est sous-représenté dans votre domaine d'études et donc aussi de où vous lancez une compagnie vous donne peut-être c'est quoi les défis que vous rencontrez par rapport à ça encore aujourd'hui malheureusement et comment vous utilisez un peu ces défis-là à votre avantage?
Déjà, jusqu'à maintenant, il y a encore certaines personnes qui pensent que les femmes ne peuvent pas faire des trucs comme la science, le génie, tout ça, là. Certains gars pensent encore ça. Et certaines filles ou femmes pensent aussi que, genre, elles sont pas capables. Quand je faisais mon doctorat, là, j'étais beaucoup impliquée dans les programmes pour faire la promotion du génie, des sciences, tout ça auprès des filles, du cégep, du primaire, tout ça. Et quand on discutait avec elles, là, on fait des activités ludiques avec elles, mais au final, genre, elles se disent, mais je me rends pas compte, je savais pas que j'étais capable de faire ce genre de trucs, là. Je pensais que c'était réservé aux gars. Fait que c'est des défis que les femmes, là, souvent, sont amenées à, comme, surmonter. Mais on est capable de le faire. Je suis un exemple, là. Je l'ai fait. Genre, quand je faisais ma maîtrise en mathématiques, en informatique, j'étais la seule fille. Genre, dans mes classes, j'étais toujours entourée que des garçons. Et genre, je me dis, je suis capable de le faire. Je vais montrer l'exemple que plein de femmes peuvent le faire. Et je milite beaucoup contre ça et pour ça. Et je pense que les femmes, on doit se réveiller, on doit beaucoup plus s'impliquer dans tout ce qui a rapport aux sciences, tout ce qui a rapport à l'entrepreneuriat et tout ça. On peut changer le monde ensemble.
Merci Roselyne.
That was really beautiful. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And for me personally, I do tend to get imposter syndrome sometimes, being a woman in science, woman in tech, and now an entrepreneur. But the way we started this project was within the context of the AI for Good Lab, which is a program aimed at teaching all the basics of machine learning to women and gender diverse people. So it was a cohort entirely of women. And I think the way our team approached these challenges was this very intentional approach to collaboration. So we started with asking ourselves questions about like, what are our weaknesses, strengths? What do we hope to achieve from this? So I think personally for me, I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. So I would treat others the way I want to be treated, but not treat myself the way I treat other people. So it's just recognizing the imposter syndrome when it happens and just trying to recognize these false narratives that are building in your mind and just telling yourself that, you know, I've survived so many things. I've lived in so many different countries growing up and I had to readapt and restart from zero every single time. So I think these are the important skills that I can bring to the table. So this is kind of the prep talk that I give myself. And I think that our all women founders team is really what is making our project so special because we have this deep-seated motivation to address inequities in tech, these disparities in pharmaceuticals, and really provide and inspire other women to follow the same path. So even if this startup fails, which as you know, most startups fail, I'm completely realistic about this. I think if I can inspire someone along the way and just inspire other women to also participate in the entrepreneurial journey, I think I will have succeeded.
Thank you. I think it's definitely something that we've come a long way in terms of making this ecosystem seem more inclusive and welcoming to people from every background, but there's still the work to do. And another thing that we've been, I think, obsessing a lot on as an ecosystem there's still so much work to do on is the entrepreneurial talent retention in Montreal and in Canada. And obviously now, you know, we had a conversation to prepare this panel and I was like, why are you guys so excited to build in Montreal? And then many folks were like, we're actually leaving. And I was like, shoot, but it's a good proof to have these conversations and these kind of events and have the conversation because to me, it brings 2 questions. One, what can as an ecosystem we can do better to maybe make younger folks more excited to stay in Montreal and build in Montreal. And, as we reflect, I think we're going to have Arlie on stage later today. Like, he's a great example of someone who came studied to Montreal, did a bunch of places, went places, and decided to come back. So sticking in Montreal is not necessarily the good thing to do, even for Montreal, as long as there are always ties to the ecosystem where you hire, where you come back, where maybe you move back at some point. So my two questions very quickly, we're almost at time. What can Montreal do better to make people want to build from here, from the new generation? And second part is, how, if you're planning on leaving, how do you think you can stay connected to the ecosystem so that we don't lose tie with folks like you?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I think first, we got to keep doing what we're doing. We're here right now. We got to continue these events. We got to keep continuing to grow the brains of all of our next generations at McGill, at HEC. We need to be able to have these organizations. McGill Ventures is only 4 years old. We need more sort of support for our founders, our entrepreneurs. As for how I'm going to at least stay connected to Montreal is exactly by talent. We have some of the best talent here. It's just unfortunate that the capital raising or the regulations isn't necessarily the most free as our South neighbors. When it comes to talent, when it comes to the people that we have here, it is truly top tier and hope to stay connected in every way possible.
In my case, obviously, I agree 100% with what you just said. I think the source of why a lot of the talent in Montreal is leaving is, one, because there's not enough capital in the province, and I don't think that's the investors. We shouldn't blame the investors for that. We should blame more like the universities for that, right? No, I'm serious. If you look at Waterloo, who's widely recognized to be the best engineering university in Canada and one of the best in the world, they literally have entrepreneurship baked into their programs, right? I can take a semester off in Waterloo to start a business. You can't do that in any university in Quebec, right? If it works for Waterloo, if it works for MIT, it works for Stanford, it works for all these Ivy League schools, why can't we just bring that stuff here, right? Entice people to actually start their own businesses, and that'll entice more investors to come to the province and invest capital here. And at least for me, I'm actually leaving for Toronto pretty soon. Nothing against Montreal. I love the city. I love events like these. It's just because my whole team's in Toronto, and I don't believe in working from home, and it doesn't work well in early stage companies. Bring them here, well, yeah. So how I'm gonna keep my ties here, I think attending and hiring from Montreal is definitely something that we're looking into. Every time that we're trying to hire, we don't restrict ourselves from anyone in any province or any country. On the contrary, I actually encourage our team to hire from locally, Montreal, McGill, HEC, Concordia, et cetera. And otherwise, it's just coming to these events and organizing them. I hear 555 has been a blast lately. So organizing events like those are always a blast. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have time for one very quick question for the audience. If anyone has a pressing question for any of our panelists, please raise your hand and someone will come with a mic.
But could you talk us a little bit through how does it work in the product that you're developing? Is it like a scan? Is it a blood test? And in a healthcare system that is more reactive, you're going for a proactive approach to solving this problem. How are you placing it in the dynamics of the healthcare system?
Je parle plus de notre solution, c'est ça. En fait, nous, la solution qu'on développe, c'est on va comme analyser donc les images, les CT scans et d'autres types de données. Et à partir de ça, on va pouvoir extraire des caractéristiques et être en mesure de prédire plus précisément, mettons, mais beaucoup plus early, donc le cancer du poumon. Donc l'idée, c'est vraiment de le détecter au moment où, le patient ne présente pas encore les symptômes de la maladie. Donc, même au moment même où le médecin ne voit pas cela, mettons, disons, dans l'image, là. Donc, être en mesure de prédire les risques de l'avoir. Donc, actuellement, on travaille avec une équipe, là, donc avec le CHUM, avec Polytechnique et des étudiants là-dessus. On a des résultats pas mal intéressants, là, mais on continue à travailler là-dessus pour optimiser nos résultats. Je sais pas si ça répond à ta question. Super.
Thank you so much. If you have any questions or want to chit chat with our entrepreneurs, I think we heard it loud and clear that making those connections mentoring capital and so on can only help. And we've came a long way in terms of building the gap between student entrepreneurs, university on-campus entrepreneurs with the industry. But let's keep building to have stronger bridge and make sure we really elevate our student founders. So thank you so much all. And on to the next panel.